Hello and welcome to the D4K Dressage Festival prize list walkthrough. My name is Lara Sloan and our family has been involved with D4K or Dressage for Kids since about 2016. And it has been an instrumental part of both of my kids' dressage journey, if you will. And I just feel very passionate about D4K and the festival because the festival really has always been such a highlight in my children's summer, really. And so what I want to do is I wanted to do this video because I know sometimes the prize list can feel overwhelming. There's so much there and there's a lot going on. And so what I want to do is I want to walk you through the prize list. Hopefully this will give you an overview, answer some immediate questions, and then also give you kind of a direction as to where to go in the prize list if you have more questions. So first and foremost, it is going to be held August 7th through the 9th at the Horse Park of New Jersey. And it is open to riders of all levels. And that is literally from lead line all the way up to the FEI U25 division. And they also have divisions for the para and the Western dressage. So all levels. And then for ages, it is open to ages 4 through 25. There is an additional alumni division for riders who are older than 25 and have already competed in a D4K festival. All right, so the things that are offered. At the core are these individual dressage championships. There are also team championships, optional classes, and fun extras. So what I want to do is I just want to talk briefly about the individual division championships. This is a 3-phase event, if you will. It's comprised of a written test, a dressage test, and an equitation class. And these divisions are grouped by level and the rider's age. So it really is like kind of putting all, let's just say, training level riders who are 10 through 12 in a group and training level riders who are maybe 13 to 15 all in a group. So it really is about having riders at a certain level in a certain age group grouped together and competing against each other. So that's the individual phase. New for 2026 is the horseless division. And this is great because if you have a horse that can't go off property for one reason or another, maybe they just don't like getting on the trailer, or maybe they don't like showing off property, or your horse is lame, or you're on the other side of the country, whatever it may be, where it's not prudent to take a horse to the horse show, there is this horseless division. And so what this is comprised of is the written test, like the individual division, judging a sport horse conformation class, and then also judging a dressage test. So that's a really nice option if you don't actually have a horse that you can bring to the festival. Okay, so we have the individual championships, we have the horseless division championships, and then there's also the team championships. And for the team championships, there are actually no extra rides. It's simply you get together with 3 to 4 other riders of any level, including the walk trot division, and the top 3 scores of that team become your total team score, and then teams are placed appropriately. Okay, so moving on, we have optional classes, which are really, they're what I consider the fun classes, and it's what really makes the festival feel like a party and really just makes it different than everything else that's out there. There are also some fun extras, and you can read about those there, including the scavenger hunt, meet and greets, trainers forums, the hobby horse competition, which is new, and some team trivia. So lots of fun stuff. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to bring your attention to this tentative schedule. On Thursday, this tends to be the day that everyone moves in, they get settled, you take your horse out for a practice ride, you get familiar with the lay of the land, where the rings are, you show the horses where the judges' box is, and you just kind of get the nerves out. And then Friday, there is a schooling show, and the schooling show is optional. You don't have to do it, but it is a really nice add-on because depending on the age and the level of your rider, they might have some nerves. They may not have been able to actually school in a regulation size dressage ring. And so what this schooling show does is it allows them to go down center line in front of a judge, get some feedback, and just kind of get the nerves out. So that's a really nice option, and I always suggest it. And then there are these optional classes, and you can just kind of read through what those are. If your rider is doing second level or above, they are required to complete a jog, and that is a jog in hand. And this is also when they have the written test, and we can talk more about the written. So moving on to Saturday. Saturday, I always think of as like the main competition day because that's when they have that dressage test and they have that equitation class that gets combined with the written test to give them their individual total. So that's on Saturday. And then in the afternoon, they have a demo, the lead line class goes, and there's a fun costume class. So then on Sunday, I always like to think of Sunday as kind of the fun day, the let your hair down, celebrate, have fun. It's when they have the parade of teams. It's when there's a lot of optional classes that are happening. And then obviously the awards. All right, so moving on, we're going to scroll down. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to enter. Entries are done online through the link in the prize list. And then there are two important dates that I want you to just take note of. The first one being the opening date, which is June 1st. And that's the day that you can actually start to enter the show. And then the last one is the closing date, which is July 19th. And that's when your entries have to be in by. Now, I'm going to talk more about the closing date and some things that happen around that closing date, including late fees and the request for refunds if you withdraw. We'll talk about that in a bit. All right, so going down, this is going to be a breakdown of all the different fees. Obviously, you're not paying all of these. It depends on what classes you're going to do. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to talk about some of the scholarship opportunities available to help offset the expenses of attending the show. The first one being advertising credits. The riders can go out, they can solicit some ads to be included in the Dressage for Kids show program. And depending on the size of the ad, they will get credit. A rider can only get a maximum of $150 credit, but that does help to offset both the rider's expenses and the expense of hosting the festival. Now, there are a couple other scholarships that are available, and I am sad that I missed highlighting this one. There is this Norwegian Fjord Horse Alliance scholarship. There's one for the American Connemara Pony Society. There is the D4K scholarship. So you can read more about those in the prize list, but know that there are opportunities out there for ways to offset the cost of the show. Okay, so now let's talk about refunds. And this is where that closing date is super, super important to pay attention to. Any withdrawal of an entry prior to the closing date, prior to July 19th, will get a full refund minus a $40 office fee. Now, if it's after July 19th, you don't get a refund. However, if you have a new entry, let's say your horse was lame and you want to, swap, I hate saying that, bring a different horse, or if someone can fill your spot, then those funds can be transferred. But just keep in mind that July 19th date is super, super important. And if there's any questions, just come right back to this prize list. And this is where you're going to find kind of the answer to your question. Now, the other thing to note is post entries. If the show fills and is full and you enter after the July 19th date, your entry may be accepted if there's room in the show. Some years there's room, some years there's no room. I wouldn't take chances. I would definitely get your entry in prior to that July 19th date. All right, so now we're going to talk about the individual championships. As I mentioned earlier, is comprised of 3 phases. The first phase is the written test, which happens on Friday evening. The second phase is the dressage test. And then the third phase is a group equitation class. Each one of those phases is worth 100 points. And so your total will be out of 300 points, and that determines your placing. And again, these divisions are split by level and age group so that you're really competing against your peers who are of the same age and the same level as you are. Now, something that's really important to talk about is the rider's age. We're following the FEI age rule, which means however old you're going to be on December 31st of this year of 2026, whatever age you're going to be on December 31st is what your FEI age is. So if you are 10 today, but on December 31st, you're going to be 11 because your birthday's in October, your FEI age is 11. This is really important because when we get to talking about the written test is going to be determined by your age group. All right, so let's talk about qualifying score. There is none, which is great. But it is expected that your rider and your horse are comfortable going off property. Okay, so now let's talk about horses. We always want to put our horses first and be thinking about how much work we're asking them to do in a show environment in August, which can be quite. So let's talk about entry limits. There are 4 different scenarios. A is 1 division, and that's typically what a lot of people do. They come with their horse, they ride the training level division, they do a fun class, and they call it a day. Some people will do 2 consecutive divisions with the same horse. For example, they might do training level and first level, or they might do second level and third level. That is totally allowed. What is not allowed is doing training level and third level on the same horse with the same rider. And then the third scenario is any 2 divisions on 2 different horses in consecutive divisions or not. A walk trot. Oh, let's see the different divisions. We have a lead line. It's not up here yet, but what I want to do is I want to point out this WT. This is a walk trot division, and you can read about the specifics. I'm not going to go into detail on the video. This AA is a walk trot canter division, and then we go through and we have the training level, first level division, which is doing test 2, second level, test 2, third, test 2, fourth, you guessed it, test 2. And then we get into the FEI divisions, children's, pony, junior, young rider, IE1, and U25. In these tests, these FEI, they're going to be doing the team test, team, and then the I1, Grand Prix, and then the Western Division. So hopefully that's helpful. All right, alumni division. Alumni, you can read about how that's being run. Para equestrian is there. Please read if you have questions about the para. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to talk about the written phase. And the written phase is actually done online. So it's not actually written, but it is done online. And riders are expected to bring some sort of mobile device that can connect to the internet. This test is a multiple choice. It's true false questions. Now, we do have riders that are as young as 4. We do have some riders who struggle with reading and writing. So we do have the ability to make special test accommodations. Please, please, please reach out and let us know in your. All right, so now let's talk about the required reading. There are 3 things that everyone, regardless of age, will be tested on. This being the prize list, which we're going over now, the rules of riding with others in the ring. There's a link to that document, as well as the festival program book, which you will get when you arrive on Thursday. So that is kind of one part of the written test. And then it kind of breaks down into ages. So 11 and under. Remember, this is the oldest that you're going to be in 2026. So if you are going to be 11 and under December 31st of this year, this is what you're going to be reading. It's the United States Pony Club Manual of Horsemanship. You don't have to read the whole book. There are certain pages you'll see highlighted here. Those are the pages that the test questions will be pulled from. Now, if you're 12 to 15, this is what you're going to be reading. If you're 16 to 25, this is what you're going to be reading. And 26 and older, there's no required reading, but you will have a written test of general knowledge and trivia. Okay, so let's talk about the equitation phase. The equitation phase is a group class where riders are going to be grouped together by their level and their age group. What they're being judged on is their position and their seat, as well as the correct use of aids. Now, riders who are competing in 2 divisions, like I talked about before, if they're riding in 2 divisions, let's say training and first level, they will ride both equitation classes. This is different than in the past. They will ride both equitation classes. So when we talk about horse welfare and we talk about being mindful of putting our horses first, this would be a very full day. That would mean they would ride 2 dressage tests and 2 equitation classes. That's a lot. Maybe your horse is fit and you can do that, but just please do keep that in mind when you're signing up for that 2nd division. Now, something also to note is that if you do ride in a double bridle, which would be in 3rd level or above, if you ride them in a double bridle, you can also ride in your equitation class in a double bridle. Okay, so let's talk about the horseless division championships. This division is only open to riders who are not competing in any other division. So really, this is for those of you who are coming to the show but are not bringing a horse. And just like the other divisions, there are 3 phases. And those phases are going to be the written test, the judging sport horse conformation test, as well as judging dressage. You can read more about that there. Let's see, what else? Team championships. This is what I was talking about earlier, where 3 to 4 riders come together. Their scores get pulled. If it's 4 riders, the lowest one gets dropped. It's the top 3. And those scores all go together and the final placing is determined. And then optional classes. The first optional class is that schooling show that I mentioned earlier. And again, schooling show is really nice. It helps everyone kind of just run through their test, take a deep breath, get in front of a judge and get some feedback and just kind of get the nerves out. I'm not going to go through all of these other classes. You can read more about them. Let's just see. Quadrille. For those of you who don't know what a quadrille, it's a team of 4 riders who ride through a dressage test. The dressage tests are online through this link here. It's a lot of fun. It's something different. And then there's information about your lead line. So another fun class is this dressage trail class, almost like a dressage test, but there are certain things like pick the carrots up off of the hay bale and put them in a bucket on the other side, pick up a ball and ride a circle one-handed. So it's a lot of fun, lots of good pictures. Oftentimes the ponies try and pick up the carrots with their mouth. Again, it's a lot of fun. And then pre-caprilli, that is a dressage test that has jumps in it. Different levels of doing that. You have a turnout inspection that's optional, costume class that's optional, musical freestyle, cover art contest, tack room decorating, hobby horse competition, pinch of luck. This is really cute. I love this. Little clothespins where you can decorate them and you just leave them as little gifts on someone's either tack trunk or halter, or maybe you clip it to someone. And it's just a nice, fun thing to pass along a little luck. Scavenger hunt, ride on the side. This is wonderful. This is where a judge will sit with a group of kids and parents, trainers as well, and just kind of talk through as someone is writing their test. And it's a really nice way to kind of like sit next to a judge and like see what they're seeing and understand how a judge thinks and how a judge judges. So that's really neat. There's a stable management challenge, and this is open to riders who have the top 2 scores in the written test in these age groups. And so it's not something you would actually sign up for, but it's something that you would actually qualify for, and you would be notified if you qualified for the stable management challenge. But you can certainly read through that, especially if you know that you are and that is offered to the top 2 scores in the written test in those age groups. There's team trivia. This trainers forum, this is a really nice opportunity. While the kids are taking their written test on Friday, it's an opportunity for parents and trainers to come and just kind of open forum. Let's talk about, what's working, what's not working, what do you need help with, opportunities for our youth in dressage, and how can we continue to support the youth in dressage going forward. So it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And then competitor volunteer requirement. All riders are required to volunteer at least 1 hour during the show, and there'll be signups on Thursday when you arrive. Stabling, there's information on stabling. Going down here, the stabling section on the entry form. The stable group is the name that all riders who want to stable together will give. Now this is stable together. So if you're coming with your barn and maybe you have a friend from a different barn and you all want to like stable together, that's the stable group name. The team name for the team competition, that's different. And there'll be a separate spot to put that. Your stable group and your team name may be the same, but remember there's only 4 people on the team. There is a security night check that is available for no extra charge. Just make sure that when you get to the show that you fill out those emergency contact cards that are going to be either in your packet or already on your stalls. Now, at the horse park, the aisles are pretty narrow, and we ask that you keep the aisles as clear as possible. So please don't plan on bringing a tack trunk and putting it in the aisle because there isn't room for horses to get through. So if that's something that you normally do at a show, I highly recommend that you get a tack room. Share that with the other folks that are coming with from your farm or with a friend, and plan to keep that stuff kind of in a tack room. All right, so shavings can be pre-ordered on your entry form, and that's just really nice. You need 4 bags of shavings, 5 bags of shavings, whatever you need, and they're already in your stall when you get there. Hay is not provided. There is a Tractor Supply down the road, but you don't necessarily want to be switching hay on horses, especially while you're traveling. So I would suggest bringing enough hay to get you through the weekend. Good news is stalls do not need to be stripped before you leave the showgrounds. So that's always a nice plus, especially at the end of a long weekend. All right, so proof of vaccination. So I'm going to let you read through that, but just know that there are some requirements there, especially if your flu, rhino, or any vaccines are going to expire during the competition. If that's the case, you need to have the vaccinations done 14 days prior to the start of the festival. So just take a quick look now, see when your vaccinations expire, or maybe plan your vaccinations so that they don't land during the festival. All right, so award information. I'll let you read through that. Key thing here is, unfortunately, if your awards are lost or stolen, even the gift certificates, they cannot be replaced, and you do need to pick them up there. They are not mailed to you. So don't leave without getting your stuff. National Pony Cup Awards, you can read about that. Special and breed awards. This is a long list, and it can be the highlight of the festival for some folks. You'll see everything from highest scoring rider on a Connemara. You've got, going down here, highest scoring rider on a mare in dressage. Let's see, keep going. What's another one? Okay, here's another one. The Harry Houdini, highest scoring rider in Pre-Caprilli on a pony. So obviously I'm not going to read through all of these, but take your time, go through, maybe circle the ones you think your rider would qualify for, and just make sure to put it on your entry. The one thing to note about these awards, if it's a breed award, so like this one up here where it says highest scoring rider on a Connemara, these little 2 asterisks, that indicates that you need to actually show registration papers that they are registered as a Connemara. Just because they look like a Connemara doesn't mean they qualify for this award. They got to have the paper to back it up. All right, scrolling down. Award times, these will be announced usually on Saturday or Sunday morning. It's important to just keep tabs on when those are, maybe set an alarm, because they are presented live and you don't want to miss them. All right, so other things to note. The times listed in this prize list are tentative. At the time of this recording, it's March, and the festival's in August, so things change as they do with horses. Just know that general times are true, exact ones, tentative. Roving trainers. If you are coming without a trainer because your trainer can't take the time off, your trainer lives too far away, whatever it may be, there are trainers on property that are there to help you. So if that is the case, just reach out to Lendon. The email is there, and we'll make sure that you're taken care of. Arena information, lunging. You may lunge your horse, but only in the lunging ring. There'll be education, entertainment. Keep tabs on your horse's health. Food, there will be a food truck there, photographer, first aid, veterinarian, farrier, and accommodations. Here is a map of the showgrounds. Something to note is that everything is really close, very, very user-friendly. So just as we're looking here, this is the stabling, the rings that most of them are competing in is this West Ring, this East Ring, and the Grand Prix Ring. Last year, this schooling ring is where everyone warmed up. So you can see everything is very accessible and very friendly to the stable area. All right, so that is a wrap. I hope that this is helpful. Please, please, please reach out with any questions. We're always here to help. All right, enjoy.